Okay, throughout the program, I've been talking about contingency plans in different contexts. And in particular, when we did the operational planning unit, I talked about the importance of risk management within that context of as you're planning, you think about things that can go wrong, you think about the likelihood and the consequences, you make a determination based on those two criteria to assess the level of risk and then to determine the appropriate action. Depending on the type of planning that you're doing, the depth of the planning depend on whether you undertake a full-on risk assessment and risk management profile, or whether you just undertake a more flexible and adaptive contingency plan. And a contingency plan is really more of a backup plan rather than a full-on risk assessment, but it is part of the risk assessment process. When we're looking at our financial plan, so when we're budgeting and forecasting, it's also really important for us to think about contingency planning, things that can go wrong, asking those questions about what if they do go wrong, what are the potential consequences and what's the likelihood, and then undertaking appropriate action for that. And some of those actions will be um, for example, using alternate supplies, using labor hire instead of hiring, and some of those um, actions that we might take in terms of dealing with some potential things that could go wrong. Some of those will include a cost or have a cost factor to them. So we should also think about contingency planning and the costing of those contingency plans as we go through the budgeting and forecasting process. So it's really about just having one eye on the ball in terms of what are things that can go wrong, what kind of actions do I want to take as a result of that, and then what impact is that going to make on my financial plans, and uh, putting those elements within the planning process. So I talked about earlier, for example, in some of the earlier slides about having buffers in there for contingencies. So sometimes you include a contingency buffer when you go through the process of identifying things that can go wrong and likelihoods and so forth.